I'll introduce her from back here. So, I think, was it last year or the year before, we had the pleasure of finding out, meeting Lori at one of these conferences, and realized that these two are...
You got the wrong person in the family association, right? Is that what you realized?
Yeah.
You're the wrong person in PBCA.
Her being a life coach gives us a different perspective, which is great. They didn't you do a duo presentation? And we all loved it so much we thought we have to invite you. So thank you so much for coming. And this is Lori Shopland.
Thanks. I have to tell you that when Jim asked me to speak, I'm like, absolutely, I love all of you and I love everything that you guys do. And then I said, what am I doing? And he goes, on goals. I'm like, to business coaches? Like what? Like what is this? So I've been really thinking a lot about this, and so we're not going to talk about the traditional way of goal setting. We're going to talk about the way, from my perspective, of I use belief zones, because I want you to think in our time together of a time when you have set a goal. And I know if you're anything like me, when you go to conferences and stuff, I often am here and I'm always thinking of my clients. And we're like, oh, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go apply it to them and I'm going to go share it with them. My invitation today is for you to be your client. And what goals that could be in your business. It could be a relational goal. It could be a health goal. But a goal that you perhaps have set for yourself that you typically would put the business analytical set, like the SMART goals that we just talked about. But instead, I'm going to teach you something a little different that we come from the lens of, I'm a life coach and an emotional well-being strategist. So it's always just looking at the emotional part of it. So that's what we're going to work on for today. Oh, that's not me. Tyrell, do I have a...
Nope. I thought you had it in your hand.
I had
Here somewhere?
Oh, there it is, there. Fancy schmancy. Okay, perfect. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to talk a little bit about a dream that I'd had. I had hired my first life coach in 2004 when I was in a transition stage of my career. I was a stay-at-home mom after our daughter was recovered from leukemia, and it just kind of a whirlwind in our family. And I knew that what I was working with her on, I wanted to do too. I couldn't necessarily even articulate it. It was just that knowing. So I invite you now just to even think of a knowing that you've had of like something that you've wanted, but I didn't have the emotional well-being and ability to actually believe it was possible because I had so much fears. The woman that was actually a coach that I had hired, and we were working on my vision board in the living room, that I remember writing the check going, hope to God it doesn't bounce. And just working with her and thinking fear of, well, what's she gonna think if I actually wanna do something the same as she does? And so I instantly had all of these fears and these, typically people would say negative emotion, and I didn't know how to handle it. So I could have had all the strategy in the world, but I couldn't have overcome that, and it took me 18 years. It took me 18 years to circle back to what I knew was a goal that I wanted to have. So that's what we're going to talk about today, of what those goals are. We can have strategies, and I work with my clients on strategies to succeed as well, but we always come down to the belief part. So strategy isn't the problem. We can teach that. But what I do believe is most goals break down emotionally, not tactically. And that's just stuff that we just haven't yet really introduced the language to. And belief and emotional capacity are the missing links. So the iceberg gets mentioned a lot for emotional well-being and such. So I really thought that it was a helpful one to even show, like they might say, I'm scared to do it, but what's the deeper layers behind that? And what is it? So when we talk about emotional well-being, we have been conditioned and trained to do one of three things with our emotions. We will either react, we will resist, or we'll avoid. Very rarely do we actually allow the unsettling of an emotion because we've never been taught. And we've only been modeled by the people around us who are doing the best that they can, but they've never been taught. So just think of how you deal with frustration. with annoyance, with fear. What do? I was a category for all three. I would, for resisting for me is like having a beach ball, volleyball, and pushing it underwater. I want you to imagine that for a second. That's what we do with our emotions that we don't want to feel. But how long is it going to stay underwater? Until, our nose gets itchy or the wave comes and knocks us out, and it will come up. And we can all have experiences of when, right? I think a very non-political, going postal, right? Like we just like, ah. And then another one, when we react, my definition of reacting is when we play hot potato. And I did this all the time. When I worked in downtown Vancouver, I was working for a political organization, and so I would, on the drive home, listen to the news. And they weren't telling the truth about what we were doing. And my name might have been woven into some of it. And I just remember getting home, and I was so frustrated and angry, and I'd walk through the front door, and our kids' backpacks would be there. Who did I take it out on? I was frustrated at like the pundits on the news, and I was throwing it to the first person that I felt safest with. It's because we've never been taught. And then when our daughter got ill, and I didn't know how to deal with a kid with cancer at all, so what did? I overdrank, I overate, I overshopped. I avoided feeling that. And so there's no shame or blame to any of it. It's just we can't change what we can't see. And that's my invitation for this, of just looking at how do we look at our emotions, ourselves, because you won't be able to teach if you don't actually know it yourself. So emotion is often the barrier, I believe, in any of our goals that we set. If you want to lose weight, the only thing is you know how. You know how to do it. The only thing is there's discomfort. And there is a belief that I've tried before and I've never been successful. It's a belief and I can't. Bring it to the forefront. Bring it to the top. Let's look at it. And it's simply just our thoughts. And then willingness to feel is what's keeping us, the willingness, it should say, to not feel keeps us stuck. All right, so I love this. I call this my belief ladder. And I believe we're in zones. So there's 3 zones for our belief work. It is the impossible, possible, and then the inevitable. And it is magical when you can walk your client through where they're in impossible, and then they move to maybe it's possible. And by the end of like 6 months together to a year, they're like, oh my golly, it's inevitable. I hit my goal. And I did this when I was doing weight loss with clients. I've done this with reconciliation of marriages. And I do this with a woman that's just now doing her PhD. She was down here. I'm 50. There's no way I could go back to school and get my master's. I'm like, oh, but what if you could? What would it look like? Right? Moved it to possible. And then we started to play there. And all of a sudden now she's just finishing her PhD. Right? But what happened with that is she actually had to be willing to feel all of the things that came up. Now, when we're working with goal setting, typically what we do is we just look at the actions. Everybody knows the actions to take. What are the actual emotions that we're going to have to feel and no longer feel in order to achieve them? So, not for me. Let's go back to my client that was wanting to pursue higher education. She's a teacher and she wanted to go back to school. The emotions of shame, fear, and uncertainty came up. She couldn't do it. And so what was she doing? She was delaying, and she was looking for the perfect time. Like it had to, all the lines had to, she had 2 kids, they were coming up to university level. How could I take money from their educational fund to put towards me? Like, it all has to be laid. And talk about, I have a belief that if it's for you, it will find you. And she had been nursing her mother for years, and her mom, when she passed away, she actually dedicated a portion of her inheritance for her to go back to school. She said, you've been waiting, now's your time. Right? Like, talk about, she was just waiting for the perfect time. So I was like, I had to give that to her. I'm like, oh my gosh. So if you're hearing clients say, it's not for me, then basically they're just in the impossible zone. They have put this obstacle. They are no longer seeing that we could step over it, but we would just have to think differently, right? We'd have to get curious. Did you bring the ball? Oh, this is my favorite. Okay, I was talking to somebody today about this one. This to me is it's our kids' grandkids' toy. But for me, this is when we're in impossible zone. And I use this in all of my coaching calls, but this to me is also when we are just sitting in fear, overwhelmed, stuck, stressed, whatever that negative emotion is, we are here. And there's no creativity here. This is just survival. And that's why I have so much compassion to any of us that are here. I spent years in this state, but then just realizing that anything I was thinking was impossible. And I'm just so grateful that I met somebody that just started, like a coach, started to ask me really good questions. Well, then you start to get out of that line of thinking I can't, to, oh my gosh, what if I could? And then you get to that, and now how? And then that's where your strategy comes in. But when we're giving people strategies from this place, then they just do more of the same. And then they really do see themselves of like, see, I really have evidence that I could never do it. I've never been able to do it. And all we have to do is help them get to this place. So if you will, this is the impossible zone. So asking a client, asking yourselves, what aren't I willing to feel right now? Or what am I feeling that I'm actually judging myself for? Brene Brown in her Atlas of the Heart book has 70, I can round this off. I think it's 87 emotions in her Atlas of the Heart book, and she walks through every emotion. I have an emotional wheel pillow you can buy off of Amazon, and it has 75. And I've sat down and counted my list of emotions, and it's 112. So there really is this gamut of human emotions, and I'm sure that there's even more or less, right, depending on who you talk to. But all that to say is we have an array of human emotions. But what are we thinking about them? And do you have beliefs that, well, there's some emotions that I shouldn't be feeling? Catch the shoulding. Instead of going, oh, I have emotions that I don't like. And I tell my clients all the time, like, yeah, I have lots of things in my life I don't like. I don't like to clean the toilet. But I do, or I'll hire somebody, because I know my why. But when we can start to look at going, okay, like I literally had to change my identity from being a woman that couldn't and didn't know how to be overwhelmed, stressed, and anxious. That was my identity, and I was proving it to be true by putting on 74 pounds and smoking a pack of cigarettes and all of this stuff. Instead of going, what if I became a woman that was open to feeling all of my human emotions? What would that look like? Let me tell you, just the array of emotions to get into this room today. I'm still a very highly anxious individual. But now, anxiety just comes along with me. It's just part of my DNA, and I love it. Rather than judging for it. And so, what are you willing to feel? And what are you willing to think about your feelings? So the next one you'll often hear yourselves or your client saying is, maybe I could. And those emotions will start to be fear, vulnerability, and a glimmer of hope. And you see, we're just starting to climb up the stairs. Oh, but maybe I could. What might be possible on the other end? So they start taking small steps, and they start seeking out help and accountability to be able to do it. And this is where I love reminding us of, I just ended up doing an 18-month course on fear. On fear. Because that is primarily the biggest wall that we have. And I'll never forget, I was so inclined to work with the couple that was teaching me because they invited me to think about fear differently. And that fear actually could be an invitation to learn more about myself. And I'm all about self-development. So I'm like, oh, I want to know that. And I want to reveal it. And I imagine I have when I started working with her, she was 32, a young woman who came to me because she was making the decision to leave her family business and she wanted to go and become a police officer. And so we had to coach her on how she was going to tell her parents that conversation, as well as all of the fear of applying for something because she was just the fear of failure. So I'm like, well, you're already at a no. So So the worst you could do is get another no. Like, you're already at where you are. So she filled out the application and she got the phone call back and said, pass, pass, pass. You've got the physical all through. The one thing left on your file is you need to actually go see your own family doctor. So she did, and at 32, she found out she had breast cancer. So she went back and she phoned and she said, you gotta keep coaching me because I gotta get my head in the game. I gotta keep my head in the game for my 2 little boys. So we coached her. She ended up doing a TED Talk. She created an online vibrant yogi community. And then just about 2 weeks after her TED Talk on a young woman with cancer, she was diagnosed with terminal stage 4 cancer. Guess what? She's still here 18 months later. Doctors cannot understand why and how. She's written a book, and she has now just decided that fear gets the backseat. She wakes up every day with her circumstance that most of us would be paralyzed with. And she has been able to say, fear doesn't scare me anymore. It's just part of my everyday. Man, now her son's getting picked up like with hockey places because he's like, I used to be afraid, but I don't have to fear that anymore. So then when we start to get to that stage, we're in the possible zone. And so this is the question I love to ask is, what would you need to feel to be able to move forward? And again, just think of the array of emotions. So many of us say, I'm just not motivated. And then I did enough sessions with clients that trying to help them look at motivation. I'm like, what if motivated just really wasn't your thing? What if motivation is not the actual emotion that lights you up? So working with a client and becoming like intimate with what emotions move us forward. I am all about possibilities. I don't need to feel motivated. I just need to feel hopeful, and that there's a possibility that gets Lori's gear on the go. So what is that for you of what that one emotion might be? And then this is who I am now. So in the state of this, we're feeling the emotions of calm, confidence, and clarity. And then the actions are, they take bold actions. They're consistent and they're aligned. And when they're there, they're in the inevitable stage, the zone. And this is so fun because we can get to the inevitable before we actually have any evidence of the goal being successful. It's what Jim and I talk about all the time. What are you willing to feel? We are building something, and I know we're building it. And I just know the only thing stopping us is our belief that it's possible. So we play this game all the time. What are we willing to feel? What thought's coming up that's actually bringing up fear? Let's bring it to light. And it's just like what we do with our kids of pulling out the boogeyman from underneath the bed that's not there. We have to look and we have to bring it to light to let them see like, oh, okay, it's not there. The same with when we have a thought that we can bring to the forefront to say, oh, I'm having the fear, or I'm having the thought that's making me afraid that I can't do this, that it's never gonna work. Bring it to light and then share it with someone. Because dollars to donuts, you share it with your partner, you share it with your own coach, you share it with somebody, they're gonna go, are you kidding me? You could totally do that. And then now you've already moved up that one step to the possibility. Really, you think I can? Really, could I? And then we keep moving. So I wanted to hang out here because I want to talk with our time left of what comes up for you when we talk about the emotions. But if I was going through this with a client, this is what I'd be. Like, we'd identify the goal, and then I would say, what do you need to believe in order to achieve that goal? And then what am I avoiding? What emotion comes up for you? What might block you? And then what emotion will propel you? And then what belief would make it inevitable? And these are beautiful stickies that we have all around the house. So when we're talking about the 3 zones, what comes up for you of, let's even just think of something for yourself. We were talking last night about, you were really like, yeah, huh. Okay, so is there a zone where you feel you hang out in the most? Impossible, possible, or inevitable for you?
For me,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's the 3 that you put on the image.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, it's yeah, maybe it's a possible for me.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So what might be the one emotion that's stopping you from moving and believing that would, like, just pick one of your goals, that it could possibly, like, it's totally possible for you?
The emotion?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe I'm the, not courage, but the, you know,
Confident?
yeah, the confidence to you know, to lost, yeah, we talk about security when we have the security, you know, to, for myself, I will go out loud. So it's the possibility that I quit, for example, the university and go on my own coaching area. So it's very scary because I have a lot of security as a professor, you know what I mean? It's huge. As a security, as a universitaire. So it's like, do I use the image with my wife, I'm taped on the bench, I'm taping. So I tape myself on the bench. Sometimes I get up, I see the vision, I see the, but so she said to me as a joke, so you tape yourself again, Stefan? You know, because I put my long view, you know, yes, maybe, yes, I'm able, but when I look my security area, you know, I take myself again. So I'm with you guys all, but I'm in this zone. Yeah.
And it's just so interesting to even recognize, because now that and I love when my clients say they don't know. Because I think that is revolutionary right there, is because then they're actually exposing that they've never considered what is blocking me emotionally from doing this. So don't poop on yourself if that's in fact you don't have the answer.
Yeah.
Good. Because if you did and you weren't doing anything about it, then you could kind of go, you know, check and balance. But over here it's like, oh, so the fact I just want to highlight for you, it sounds very much like your brain's doing the all or nothing.
Yeah.
So it's saying, well, I have to leave my security to be able to go do this. And then my question would be, what if that wasn't true?
Yeah.
Like, what if you actually started to do this while you have the security? Because remember, security is a feeling.
Yeah.
Security is a feeling, and your feelings are created by your thoughts.
Yeah.
So as you, like, so often I feel that we are setting out plans that aren't kind to us because we're not honoring how much of a risk that is for me to feel that right now. So if you want security, it's like, then the questions might be, okay, so what does that look like? But just even watch, instead of here now, you're into starting to think and getting creative, going, okay, what would that look like? What would that look like if emotionally I want to feel secure and go do something else, which is a goal? Then how do I do that moving in the same direction? And then you can start to brainstorm with your beautiful wife to go, oh, what would that look like? What would one day, what if I went down to like 80% and one day a week? But you're not thinking that if your brain's saying all or nothing, which is in here.
Good point.
It's closed,
Yeah.
right? And that's because it's coming from a fear state. And I would highly recommend for yourself and for your clients that we really encourage them of, let's not make decisions from this place. It's okay to be here, but let's give yourself what you need here. And often for so many of my clients, it's literally hand on heart, I'm gonna be okay. Because they are so irregulated, they have to bring themselves back to just this baseline of feeling safe and okay with where they are in their career, in their relationship, in their health. I'm gonna be okay. My client, Kelsey, doesn't know she's gonna be okay every day, but she reminds herself because she knows I do not want to be living from this place. So each and every day she's living from this place to get here. I just love that she can continue to inspire us. Of like, well, if she can, we can, right? And she's bamming out every goal that she can. And here's the reminder of, I'm doing this whole big thing on the lies that we tell ourselves all the time, is she believes a lie saying that, well, this is it. She goes, I just believe that I'm going to die before you are. And I said, okay. That's an interesting thought, being, yes, you have a diagnosis, but you know what? We don't know that that's a fact. So when we get to decide on the thoughts that we're having, are they helping us grow into the goals that we want for our life? Because again, like, we have all the strategies. And not like that is part of the job that we do when we work with teams, is we have the strategy. They want that. But none of it's new. I hate to tell you guys. What you're offering your clients isn't new, right? It's maybe in a more succinct way and everything else, but it is, how does it feel for them to buy into the belief that they can actually get to here to succeed on their goal? Thank you for playing with me. Okay, 4 minutes. Any other questions on? Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Lori, I'm going to give you something that maybe will complement your work on the inevitable. It's in my book, but very briefly, I'm going to amplify it in another book.
Okay.
I'm playing with the title Deja Vu Living. And what it is, it's been my life philosophy, and it's got me through. I live a deja vu life. In other words, my visualization is so fierce and so much on steroids that by the time I ever do anything, I've done it already.
Yes,
and
yes.
by the time I do it, it's deja vu. Like it's just
It's
almost
brilliant.
anticlimactic. So, and this is my life philosophy. That
That's
This is
beautiful.
why you need solitude and reflection,
Yeah.
because I get ready. My visualization is my private time.
Yeah.
My meetings with myself.
Yeah.
And I work not only on like you can dream and dream and dream, but I also talk about I think about contingency. I think about recovery.
Yeah.
About risk management, and I just visualize. And so then, by the time the event comes, like even yesterday when I presented my summary on my book, I did it a long time ago. And yesterday was like a deja vu experience.
Nice.
Because I'd already done in my mind my summary to you guys of what I did. I do that with everything I do. I call it deja vu living. And so when it comes, it's not a big deal. It's not fear. I tried to get that with my kids when I was coaching football as well. Or deja vu living. And then when the game comes, like the game is anticlimactic. We
Yes,
won.
yeah,
We
'cause
won
you've
before
already-
the kickoff. We won. We won by 2 touchdowns and maybe more,
Yeah.
5 turnovers. Like I visualized the whole thing, and the kids are with me, and we win, right? And you do that in your head with everybody. That takes the inevitability
Yeah.
through fierce visualization on steroids.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very powerful tool.
Love it. Yeah.
Deja vu living.
And we just think of how much we don't utilize, right?
Yeah.
And even,
And you know, the star athletes do that, right?
Yeah.
I used to be a jock, but
Yeah.
you know, you see people at the top of the ski hill and they're doing the whole thing. They've already won the gold medal, and they haven't even left the starting gate yet.
yeah.
But that's a skill, and I wish more people could be taught that skill.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I already have my outfit picked out, just as you're on that. That's my screensaver. And Jim has one similar, but that's me on a TED stage. And I'm doing my talk on No More Lies. So when I get there, it will be my deja vu.
Yeah.
But all the emotions I'm working through now getting to that. Even telling you, but I'm like, it's out there. Like it has to have a life of its own kind of thing. So
Yeah.
thanks, Dale.
So that gets you to inevitable.
Yeah, that totally does. My last screen is, if you can feel anything, I truly believe you can do it. But we have to figure out what that feeling is and then what your thought is around all of the feelings. All the do it. I think that was it. On time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Great, Lori.
Oh, thank you.